Guys, Ritesh here, and in this video, I will be talking about what is perceptron and how we use perceptrons in our deep learning models and why the name is deep learning itself. So let me start with perceptrons. So in general, perceptrons are simply a function which takes multiple values, which will take multiple values, and each value will have some weights. This will start from Wn and this will go until Wn and it will give you an output. And if the output is greater than 0, we give a value of 1. If output is less than 0, we give a value of 0. This is as simple as that. But uh, let me first tell you why we are using this type of notation here, why we are using this type of notation and why we use perceptron in deep learning. So these models have been inspired from our brains and the way our neural system works. So what happens in in our nervous system is this is the main body of our nervous system. This is like the tail, and then we have very this root like structure here, and this is also connected. So this will have some pointer, 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 and this again will be connected to sorry, this again will be connected to some other neuron via this tail, and one of this will be connected to this. These are called dendrites. So this is how our nervous system works. So uh, in the same manner, we have imitated what we see in biology. So what we do is, see, this is one simple structure. This is simple structure. This is a neuron. This, this, and this are very similar to each other. That's why we call this as. So this particular is called perceptron, but when they are interconnected with each other, we call them neurons. And in perceptron, we don't have any particular function that will take this value. Simply, we take these values. We have x1, we have x2, and we go until xn. And what we do is we simply multiply x1 with w1, and we take summation x2 with w2 vector. We take summation, and we go until xn wn. And there is at last we have a bias term plus b. So if the value of this particular thing is greater than 0, we give a value of 1, and if this is less than 0, so greater than equals to 0, and if it is less than 0, we give a value of 0. Simple. But in all of the practical purposes, we will not use these kind of formulation. What we will use is we will have a function here, and that function can be sigmoid function, that can be tan h function, or any function of your choice. So when it is having some function and when they are interconnected with each other, we generally, in general terms, we call them neurons. So let me show you how that is being done. Okay, so suppose uh, this is a neuron, this is a neuron, and this is a neuron. Okay, just let me draw this figure, then I will explain to you why I'm drawing this. This is a figure, this is a figure, and then we have a final figure here. Okay, what happens is, suppose we have x1, we have x2, we have x3, and we have x2. For now, just assume that every data point has only 4 features. Okay, so what will happen is this neuron will get input from, will get x1, x2, x3, x4 all as inputs. So this neuron will also get, let me change the color. So this neuron will get all those inputs here, and this neuron will also get all these inputs. Oh, sorry. Okay. So this neuron will also get all those inputs. And just remember that all these all these connections will have the appropriate weight. We will see all those in our next videos. This is just the introductory video. I will just explain here what is a multilayer perceptrons, what are perceptrons, and all those things. Now this particular neuron will be input to this and this. This particular will be input to this and this, and this particular will be input to this and this, and finally these two neurons will be input to this, and we will have a final output based on the value that this neuron gets. We will have some value here, and that will decide our final output. So we can have some function here, 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 we can have some function, and we can have some function here. But in general, what we do is we generally use same type of functions here. Same function here, same function here are used. So now, see, this individual is perceptron, this individual or perceptron. So I will use the word perceptron and neuron interchangeably. So don't worry about this. So this is the individual, this is individual perceptron or neuron, this is an individual neuron, this is an individual neuron, this is an individual neuron. So since we have layers of neurons here, so this is the first layer, this is the second layer, and this is the last layer. That's why this is called multi-layered perceptron, because we have multiple layers and we have multiple layers of perceptron. So in short, they are called MLPs. They are multi-layer perceptrons. Now this is called layer 0. This is just the convention. This is just the convention. This is layer 0, this is layer 1, this is layer 2, and this is the output layer. So we have two hidden layers. One is the input layer. This is also called input layer. This is also called output layer. And this is the hidden layer that I was talking about. Okay. Now, what is the reason of using this particular type of architecture? Why we are using this? I will just explain it to you in a moment. So, why we are using this is, see, till now in machine learning, what we have seen was our data points were like this. See, this is a type of data point here, and this is a class of data point here, and we were easily able to draw a hyperplane that could separate these two data points. But in real world cases, this might not be the case. So what may happen is, suppose we have data point like this. Okay, we have data point like this, something like this, something like this. Then we have like here, these are the data points, they are belonging to the same class. Okay, they are belonging to the same class. Now suppose we have some points that are belonging to some other data point. Okay, like this, some points here, some points here, they are scattered all over the place. Okay, like this, like this. Okay, now we have some third data point also like this, they are scattered here, like this. Now in machine learning, this task is very difficult to solve, because there is no way that we can classify the distribution. If the distribution is like this, there is a very minimal chance that we can classify easily. But in deep learning, what we can have is, we can we can train a model which can classify this separately, and it can classify this particular thing, this particular class, this particular class separately, and the rest will be belonging to some other class. So in machine learning, we don't have the model that can be this complex to classify the points. But in deep learning, we can have various functions. Why we can have various functions is, see, this is a particular neuron, 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 and we can have one layer. Sorry, we can have a layer on top of this. After this, we can have one more layer. We can have one more layer, and subsequently we can have multiple layers, and at last we can have neurons, and at last we can have some one neuron. Now what will happen is, there can be multiple combinations of connections. See, this is like this can be like this. So we will have multiple connections, we will have multiple connections like this, like this, like this. Everything will be connected to each other like this. So we can have multiple connections. So what happens is, when we have multiple functions taking the input and giving it to some other function, then we can approximate any function. See, after all, what is our objective? Our objective is to find a function which will take the input, and this will give our desired result. This is our y. This is our desired result that we want. So we ultimately we have to find a function which will take our x, and this will give us a desired y that we are looking for. But 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 in machine learning, we cannot approximate complex functions. Why? Because either we have logistic regression, or we have some tree based algorithms, or we have SVMs. So these algorithms are not capable of approximating complex functions. The type of distribution that I have shown you my previous slide, it is very difficult for these algorithms to approximate it. But there is a theorem that is called universal approximation theorem, which says that using multiple neurons and multiple layers of neurons, it is theoretically possible to estimate any function, any complex function, given you have a particular architecture and arrangement of the neurons, and the parameters that are fine tuned, you can easily approximate any function, any complex function, however the complexity is there. So this is the universal annotation theorem. So the whole thing is based on this particular theorem. So this says that you can approximate anything. That's why deep learning is far better than machine learning in complex tasks. For example, suppose this is an image and it contains multiple objects. So machine learning will never identify the types of objects, but deep learning can easily identify various objects in a single image, or it can identify speech, it can convert one language, a sentence in one language to another language. So these are the things that cannot be done using machine learning, and for that we need deep learning. Why? Because the problem is getting more complex, and we need more complex functions to solve them in order. So machine learning is not able to approximate those functions, so we are using deep learning. And why deep learning is able to approximate those functions are because of we have multiple functions and they can be connected with each other in multiple ways. Now what do I mean by they can be connected is, suppose we have a function f1, this took input x. Now this fx will give this particular, the output that f1x will give will be given to f2. In turn f3 will take it. Now what will happen is some f4 function will be there which will take output of f3, and in turn this will be the output of x1 and this will be out of x. Now some f5 function will be there which will take only f2. So like this, no, we will have particular combinations, we can have additions, we can have subtraction, we can have multiplication. So all those permutation and combinations of function will be there, and they will be arranged in such a manner that they will easily approximate those functions, those complex functions that will solve our problem. So now how this is being done is, these are being done in the this layering thing and the interconnection that is here. If this connection is not very useful, this will get a weight of 0, and which means that these and these are not connected at all. If this particular thing is not important, this will get 0. If this is very important, this will get a value of suppose 5 or 10 or some large value. So our this particular architecture will itself know which functions to give more weightage and which function will be an input to some other function. So this is the whole complex thing that will go around, and this will be done while training the model, and we will see how the model trains, why the model learns by seeing the examples and all of those stuffs in our later videos. But this was just the introduction and the introductory video. What is perceptron? I think we are clear what is perceptron, what is multi-layer perceptron, why we use deep learning, why deep learning we are using, why we cannot use machine learning for complex problems, and what is universal and approximation theorem that says that using the deep learning models or deep learning layer and architecture we can approximate any complex function. So I hope I have made my points very clear till now. So thanks for watching this video, and I will see you in my next video. Okay, thank you.